Okay. Hello everyone. Salam, Namaste, Adab, and welcome for today's show. आज का इवेंट जो है मोर कल्चरल है, so we are switching in Urdu. ये बहुत बड़ी खुशी की बात आज है कि हमें राना सफ़ी साहबा ने जो है मौका दिया कि उनको सुन सके. आज जो इवेंट है वो बेसिकली हमारे मिली जुली गंगा जमनी तहजीब के बारे में मुग़ल पीरियड में जो ट्रेडिशन शुरू हुआ था उसके ऊपर रोशनी डालेंगी वो. तो मैं इससे ज़्यादा इनके बारे में या इस सिलसिले में नहीं कहूँगा. रादर मैंने प्रोफेसर नदीम रिजवी साहब जो हिस्ट्री के प्रोफेसर अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी में हैं उनसे दरख्वास्त की है कि वो इस इवेंट के बारे में, राना सफ़ी साहबा के बारे में अपनी रिमार्क से शुरू करें.
Thank you, Razib Bhai. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I'm really grateful to Razib Sahab and others who have been giving me opportunity to join this program, which is quite remarkable and has been running successfully since a number of months. Today, as all of you know, we have Rana Safavi, who is a very well-known figure on social media. Rana Safavi is a third generation Alig. Her grandfather, Khan Bahadur Sayyid Muhammad Abbas Zaidi, was in fact a student of MAO College and did his post-graduation in English literature in 1916. Her mother did her post-graduation in philosophy in 1948. Her father was an IPS who belonged to Qasba Jalali. Rana Zaidi, as Safi was known during her student days, did her master's from the Center for Advanced Studies, Department of History, Aligarh Muslim University in 1978. She was the holder of the UGC Scholarship of Merit during her post-graduation, and she was also the topper of her class. She was also the secretary of the Sultania Historical Society in 1978. She also held the post of Senior Hall of Abdullah Hall in 1978 and President of the Women's College AMU Students Union in 1976. For personal reasons, she could not join the PhD program, even though Professor Irfan Habib had accepted her as his student. After her marriage, she taught history in Jamshedpur and then after that in Gulf. In 2012, believing that it's never too late for anything to be done in life, she came back for researching, exploring, and writing about Delhi's historical monuments. She is a passionate believer in India's Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb, syncretic culture, which she documents through her writings, podcasts, and videos. In 2011, she started the Twitter forum Shair, which was responsible for popularizing Urdu online. It is a unique platform which is still going strong with over 20,000 members. She has published 7 books so far on culture, history, and monuments of India. These are, for example, Tales from the Quran and Hadith, and then you have that Delhi trilogy, Where Stones Speak, The Forgotten Cities of Delhi, and Shah Jahanabad, The Living City of Old Delhi. She has translated both the editions of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's seminal work on Delhi, Asarus Sanadid. She has also translated Dastan-e-Ghadar and 4 accounts of 19th and 20th century Delhi from Urdu to English. The Asarus Sanadid, translated by her, was released when we were celebrating the bicentennial year of its author, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. She is also a regular contributor to various national newspapers and magazines. Her blog, ranasafavi.com, is a repository of cultural, literary, and historical heritage. Lastly, and most importantly, Rana Safi has remained most active in the days following the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. She has been organizing and hosting online lectures on Indian history and culture, and has the credit of bringing to the masses a large number of important historians and social scientists before the public. I too have had the honor of being invited to some of her excellent programs. We Alligerians are in fact quite lucky today to have her in our midst. Today, she will be talking about a fair which was started under the Mughals and revived by our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, and which represents the unity of Indians and stands for an all-inclusive nation, the secular India of our dreams. So before you is Rana Safi and a tribute to Phool Walon Ki Sair. Let us welcome Madam Rana Safi.
Thank you so much, Nadeem, for this very, very generous introduction. I am very indebted and honored. And thank you, Washington Diaspora, for inviting me. It's a privilege and an honor to be present, talk before you on something which I am very passionately attached to, the Phool Walon Ki Sair, a unique syncretic festival that started in the early 19th century, around 1820s, and continues to date, barring a few years after 1857 and after 1947. It is indeed unique. And I would like to take permission to share my screen because I would like to walk you through the Phool Walon Ki Sair. Now, the Phool Walon Ki Sair was started, as I mentioned, in the early 19th century in the reign of Akbar Shah II, who was the second last Mughal emperor. Akbar Shah had inherited a very syncretic outlook from his ancestor, Akbar the Great, who was responsible for establishing a pluralistic and splendorous empire. Barring a few ups and downs, the Mughal Empire in the 19th century, even though it had diminished considerably and the emperor's powers were limited, he was in fact a pensioner of the British. Its name still invoked grandeur. And that is why in 1857, when the soldiers or the sepoys of the British East India Company decided to rise up against their masters, they rode to Delhi and came and called out to Bahadur Shah Zafar to lead them against the British officers. In fact, even then, the proclamation was Khilqat Khuda ki, Mulk Badshah ka, Hukum Company ka. So Mulk tab bhi Badshah ka hi tha, and it remained that way till the end of 1857, when the fall of Delhi occurred and the British were able to capture Delhi and exile the Mughal emperor in 1858. Now there are many, many interesting stories about how Phool Walon Ki Sair started. Phool Walon Ki Sair is mentioned by almost everybody writing in the first half of the 19th century. Ghalib says, Delhi ki hasti munassir hai kai hangamo par. Qila, Chandni Chowk, har roz Majma Jama Masjid, har hafte sair Jamna ke pul ki, और दिल्ली में हर साल मेला फूल वालों का. ये 5 बातें अब नहीं, फिर दिल्ली कहाँ? He's talking of this post 1857, the uprising of 1857. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, writing in 1846 in the first edition and 1847 in the first edition and 1856 in the second edition, also talks about certain monuments being associated with the Phul Walon Ki Sair. In 1889, there is an account by Mirza Hairab Dehelvi called Phul Walon Ki Sair, which also mentions, which describes the entire way the Sair was held and the Mela took place. But he doesn't give any reason for it. Neither does Zahir Dehelvi, who wrote Dastan-e-Qadar. Again, he mentions the Phul Walon Ki Sair, but he also does not mention why it happens. This explanation is given in 1885 in Bazm-e-Akhir by Munshi Faizuddin, who was a courtier in the of Mirza Alahi Baksh, Salatin, and the father-in-law of the Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, and who had access to the court and in fact was in and out of the fort. So the description that Munshi Faizuddin gives is that Mirza Jahangir, who was the third son of Akbar Shah II, and his favorite wife Mumtaz Mahal, was very headstrong, rebellious, and what we would say in Urdu, sarkash. He was also very fond of alcohol and extremely rebellious towards the British. During that time, the resident, as I had said, the Mughal emperor was already a pensioner of the British, and a British resident had been sent to the court of the Mughal emperor, and it was he who took most of the decisions. So Sir Archibald Seton was the resident of that time. Mirza Jahangir decided to confront Archibald Seton, and in court one day called him a Lulu. And he said, Lulu hai betu, Lulu. Now, Archibald Seton was very well acquainted with Urdu, so he knew what Lulu meant. But the courtiers who were around, realizing that the resident's face had fallen, immediately said, Sarkar, ye to Arbi wala Lulu hai, aapko naya moti keh raha hai ye. He kept quiet. He decided to let prudence rule the day. But Mirza Jahangir was not content. And the next day, or after a few days, he was standing on the edge of the Naubat Khana when he decided to take a pot shot at Sir Archibald Seton. Archibald Seton was not hurt, but his orderly was killed. And that was that. After that, it was decided. A court was held, Darbar was held, and the resident said that this boy needs to be schooled and he will be exiled to the Allahabad fort. Mirza Jahangir was sent to Allahabad, and his mother, Mumtaz Mahal, whose favorite he was, cried and cried. And it is said that she made a vow that if my son comes back, I will offer a chadar to Qutubji, that is Hazrat Qutubuddin Bakhtiar Kaki, one of the most popular saints of Delhi, a Chishti saint who is the Khalifa of Hazrat Moinuddin Chishti of Ajmer. Now, he was very popular with the Mughals. The two saints of Delhi, the two Chishti saints, Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya and Qutub Sahib, as he is called, were both favorites of the Mughal emperors. And from Shah Alam II, we keep hearing of many occasions on which the kings or the emperors would go to Mehroli. In fact, Akbar Shah had even got a small palace built there, which was called Jangli Mahal, to which Bahadur Shah Zafar added a very beautiful gateway and a set of apartments. And after that, it's called today Zafar Mahal. But at that point of time, it was still called Jangli Mahal. Mehroli, being a very, very hilly and wooded place, became a Sairgah and a resort for the Mughal emperors, especially during monsoons. Now, this is Mirza Jahangir's grave in Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya's Dargah. It is from the British Library. And these are pictures and portraits of paintings of Mirza Jahangir. As you can see, he's a young boy. Now, as I said, these accounts of Mirza Jahangir we find in 1885, Munshi Faizuddin. Then we find it in Delhi Ka Aakhri Deedar. And in there's a book called Phul Walon Ki Sair by Faratullah Beg, in which he describes it in great detail. And I have read that as well as many other books written during that period, including लाल किले की एक झलक, किला मोहल्ला की झलकियां, all of which describe this Phool Walon Ki Sair. So whether the Mirza Jahangir story is correct or not, the rest of the Phool Walon Ki Sair is definitely authentic because it's mentioned by everybody, in starting from Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Now Zahir Dehelvi gives a very interesting anecdote. He is describing Bahadur Shah Zafar's skills in horsemanship, and he says that it is said in those days that there are only 2.5 people who are good horsemen. One is the emperor himself, the other is his brother Mirza Jahangir, and the half is some Maratha. He doesn't give the name of the Maratha, but Dhai Sawar hai. And the reason for Mirza Jahangir being a very good horseman, he gives is that he jumped his horse across the moat in the Allahabad fort to escape the British. Whatever may be the story, there are in Farhatullah Beg's book, it says that it was Seaton who brought Mirza Jahangir back to visit his parents. Mirza Jahangir did come, and the queen decided to fulfill her vow and go to Mehroli, or Qutubji as it was called in those days, to go to Qutubji to offer a chadar at Qutub Sahab's Dargah. 200 rupees were marked and given to the flower sellers to make pankhas and chapar khuts. Chapar khuts are canopies which are offered onto the shrines of the saints. So, and pankhas were made, also floral pankhas, and that is why after that the sair started getting called Saire Gul Farosha or the Phool Walon Ki Sair, which is the Urdu translation of the Farsi word. There's a book which I'm currently reading called Bahadur Shah Ka Roznamcha, in which it, and even in Herat Dehelvi's book Phool Walon Ki Sair, it says that, 2 months before Bhado, the fair was held on the 15th of Bhado. So 2 months before Bhado, the people would start preparing for the fair. And the date would be fixed. It was normally 15th of Bhado, which fell sometime around August, September. Today, the fair is held in the end of October or November, not during monsoons. But under the Mughals, the fair was held in the monsoon months, in the month of Bhado. Now I can take you to the Sair. In Dastan-e-Ghadar, there is a beautiful description of the bathers at the Yamuna in the morning. On the day 11th of May, when the soldiers come, the sepoys come riding up to the Musamman Burj of the Red Fort. And the chapter starts with a beautiful verse. Subhe hui gajar baja, murke seher ka gul hua, karne lage chaman chaman, murke chaman nawagiri. Masjid-o Khanka se shor utha salat ka, देर में जाकर ब्राह्मण करने लगे हरी हरी. This describes the syncretic culture of Shah Jahanabad as I found it in the Urdu accounts and as I found it when I spent 3 to 4 years roaming each and every gully and kucha of Shah Jahanabad while writing, translating Asaru Sanadid and writing my own book on Shah Jahanabad. Bahadur Shah Zafar, as you know, was very fond of music, so were all the Mughals. And he had very famous musicians at his court, including Tanras Khan, who was a descendant of Tansin. And he would be woken up with music. He would sleep with music. There are many descriptions of how the singers would be behind the chilman, the dancers would be there. And I start my walk with Rag Bhairavi because it's morning. And today the cavalcade will leave for Qutub Sahab.
जागो मोहन प्यारे जागो भोर भई अब काहे को सोए उठ उठ नंद किशोर जागो मोहन प्यारे सूरज की पहली किरणों से वसुंधरा पे हुआ बसेरा उठ उठ नंद किशोर जागो मोहन प्यारे, जागो जागो मोहन प्यारे, जागो.
So the cavalcade is ready. The Havadar or the traveling sedan chair or the Takht Rawa has come for the emperor. They will all go till the Delhi gate in palanquins. There will be salutes fired from the Topkhanas of the British as well as the Mughal Topkhanas for the emperor as he leaves the Chatta Chowk. This is the Chatta Chowk of the Red Fort, the entrance, and then you can see the tricolor flying here. It is out of this gate that they are going to be going. When they reach Delhi gate, they will then get on to their phaetons or the elephants. The Basha would be on the elephant. The queen, the consort, would be in her phaeton or tom-tom, as it had just, Zeenat Mahal used to ride a beautiful tom-tom, tam-jham as it was called in Urdu. The first stop would be Qilai Kohna Mosque. But before we go there, I'd just like to give you a small description of how the cavalcade moves and the love that the people had for the Mughal emperor. In fact, Faratullah Beg says that there was a palpable sense of loss when the Bahadur Shah Zafar was exiled to Rangoon, and he says that whether it was the Hindus or the Muslims, the rich or the poor, everybody cried as if it was their father who was being sent away. Now the royal carriage moves forward slowly. The emperor flings a fistful of coins towards the gathered crowd. A man holds the royal hookah and walks alongside the open palanquin so that the emperor can smoke it. The personal attendants carry Abe Hayat in earthen pots. That's another point, that the water that they drank from the Ganges was called Abe Hayat from Akbar's time onward. Packed in saltpeter and covered with muslin. The watchkeepers hold the hourglasses and strike the gong every hour. The yuva bearers hold yuvas, potters hold fans, and Abyssinians hold whips with silver tiger heads, all of them walking beside the open palanquin. They are preceded by the mace bearers and the personal bodyguards who hold silver and gold maces and call out, "Keep moving, walk briskly." The blessed emperor arrives. Soldiers bearing guns on their shoulders, shields on their backs, and swords on their waist march forwards. Horses decked with embroidered cloths on their back and bells on their feet clop ahead. The city's residents salute the emperor from the upper stories of their houses, and the emperor acknowledges their greetings with a nod of his head. Thus the royal carriage exits the city and stops. Once again, gun salutes are raised, and there is a change of guard. Dark messengers are stationed all the way till Qutubji. The emperor exchanges his open palanquin for an elephant and the queen for a 6-horse carriage with a silver and golden canopy and golden finials. By morning, the procession reaches the Qilai Kohna Mosque, which is the Purana Qila or the fort that was built by Humayun. This particular mosque was built by Sher Shah, and the emperor and his retinue, the male members, they all come here, and he gets down here, reads his namaz, and does his wazifa, and then carries on forward. The women go on straight to Humayun's tomb. After that, they come to Humayun's tomb, where the masnads have already been laid out, carpets have been spread, refreshments have been set up, hookahs, fan, everything is there. In olden days, as you know, only 2 meals were eaten. There was no concept of breakfast. There was an early meal in the mid-morning and then again in the early evening. So till then, in between, it was normally hookah and pan. All that has been set up. The Basha comes here, sits here for some time, and then taking each of the male members with him, goes and recites Fatiha over all the graves. He names them. This is so-and-so, and then recites the Fatiha. Today, we are all wondering which is the grave of Dara Shikoh. The Mughal empire ended so abruptly that we were robbed of that knowledge. From here, they go to Sultanji, as it was called. Hazrat Nazamuddin Aulia is called Sultanul Mashayikh, or the king of the saints, and popularly and called with love Sultanji. They would come to the Sultanji, and the carriages would be stopped outside, the dolis would come in, and they would all come into this Bauli area. What we see here, these buildings were all built, some during the Delhi Sultanate, some during the Mughal times, and this is where the ladies would get down and spend some time here. There are beautiful descriptions that they would sit there, के पैर लटका के बावली में बैठते थे, वजीफे हो रहे हैं, गाने हो रहे हैं. They are generally having fun. The emperor is doing his wazifa, and after that is done, the khadims come and ask, is it okay if the children want to jump into the bauli? Is it okay that we call them? And he says, unka haq hai, unhe haq milega. And 8 to 12-year-old boys come in, and then the princesses throw coins into the bauli and they dive. And you can see that diving here. I caught it on one of the occasions of the urs when the children were diving, and you can see this child jumping up from here. So of course now, but nobody throws coins, but in those days coins would be thrown by the ladies and the princesses, and they would jump in, collect the coins, and after that there would be some qawwali, and then they would go into the dargah. And what is a visit to the dargah without a qawwali? So this is not a qawwali, but this is one of the Sufi kalams, and just a small sample sung by Rashmi Agarwal. And then, of course, they visit the dargah of Mehboob-e-Ilahi, also called Pia many times by Hazrat Amir Khusro. And it is Hazrat Amir Khusro's dargah, which is here at the bottom. This is a photograph that I took during his urs, which they would visit first. They would go there, visit there. The ladies would stand outside, the men would go in. And then after that, they would come to the dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya. The women, it is described, stood outside at the door. कोई दामन फैलाया है, कोई खाक उठा रहा है चौखट की, कोई दुआ मांग रहा है. दुआएं तो सभी के पास है मांगने के लिए. And who is it who doesn't need prayers and blessings all the time? So from here, after having done that, done nazar and niyaz, and the emperor was very particular about that, he would always get niyaz done. Nazar niyaz ke baad, then they would move to Mansoor ka madrasa, or Safdarjung's tomb as it is called today. It is here that a picnic would be held. And there are 3 pavilions in the Safdarjung's tomb called Moti Mahal, Jangli Mahal, and Basha Pasand. Basha Pasand would be where the emperor would sit and relax for some time. वहाँ पे कनातें लगती थी, खाने पकते थे, पतीलियाँ चढ़ती थी, कढ़ाइयाँ चढ़ती थी, पेड़ थे. What we see today is of course a very British idea of what a lawn should be and a garden should be, but the Mughal idea of a garden was flowering and fruit-bearing trees. It was not lawns and it was not grass. And there would be, of course, patias with flowers, flowering beds, but it would be basically be a lot of trees. As Sir Syed Ahmad Khan has described the trees in Humayun's tomb, he says that the cypresses were so tall, the trees were so tall, कि आसमान को वो के बराबर हो जाते थे. Of course, he had a lot of exaggeration, but that they could, they could rival anyone in height and reach towards the sky. There were such tall trees and such beautiful trees in these tombs and gardens that were built by the Mughals or during the reign of the Mughals. So it is over here that the girls would be free. The princesses would run around, they would climb trees, they would jump around, they would play, and they would have fun, sing. And from here, then they would go to Qutub Saab's Dargah or to Qutub Saab Mehroli, where they would reach by around 4 o'clock. The ladies would go to the Jangli Mahal, and the emperor, of course, would go first to the Dargah along with the princes of the royal blood and the Amir Umrah that had come with him. He would pay his respects here and then come back to the Jangli Mahal. Now, this is Babe Zafar. As I said, this was built by Bahadur Shah Zafar after he became the emperor, and it is these apartments from here, it is where the ladies would stand and watch the procession of the Phool Walon ki Sair. Today it's in a very, very bad state, considering that it is the last monument that was built by the Mughals. It looks as if it was one of the first. It's in ruins. We have been trying to get some kind of maintenance here, but the locals come and play cricket here. Anyway. So this is what the inside, this is a painting by Ghulam Ali Khan in British Museum, which shows you the interior of the Jangli Mahal. You can see this is the dome of Qutub Saab's Dargah, and they are sitting here and there is some music being played here. As I said, they were very fond of music, and the famous musicians of their time, there were two ladies who were very popular. One was Narayan Bai, who it is said could just look at the Bashah's ghazal and set it to music immediately. The other was Tirmui Khanam. She was very fond of pan, and her mouth was always full of the betel juice, and so her mouth would look tedha, and so she was given the name of Tirmui Khanam. And the bean players, of course, were Mirza Kale, Mirza Chirda, Mirza Gauhar. These were princes also, and Nasir Wazir. And the princes were given extensive training in music. And Mirza Kale, who was the grandson of Bahadur Shah Zafar, is said to have been such a wonderful bean player that he could rival the best. And according to Khwaja Hasan Nizami, after 1857, when he fled, he took on the clothes of a jogi, wore orange clothes, went into the court of Alwar and stayed there as a musician. He took a job there as a musician, and it was only when somebody from Shah Jahanabad or Old Delhi, as it was called in those days, who comes there, and he's called Jogi Saab, and Jogi Saab is playing, and then suddenly he says, this is not any ordinary Jogi, this is Mirza Kale. I can hear his music, I can recognize his music anywhere. Now, after settling down in Jangli Mahal, the emperor and the ladies and the royal cavalcade would come 2 days before the rest of the city would come, so that they could enjoy the pleasures of Qutubji, and before the commoners came, or before the general public came, and so that then after that the populace and the riaya could enjoy themselves, because there would be, of course, restrictions for the ladies. The first 2 days there would be restrictions, there would be parda, so that the ladies could have fun. Now the ladies would, of course, first of all go to Jahaz Mahal. This was built during the time of the Lodhis. It's on the edge of a reservoir built by Sultan Shamsuddin Iltutmish of the Delhi Sultanate, and its reflection when it fell in water used to look like a ship. Of course, today there is no, as you can see, there is no water around here. The Hawz-e Shamsi itself has shrunk a lot. So they would come here, they would play here, and this Jahaz Mahal was apparently built as a place where people could come, who the devotees who came to visit Qutub Sahab could come and rest here. And this is the Hawz-e Shamsi. This pavilion that you see here is said to be the pavilion where there is the hoof imprint of Buraq. It is said that Sultan Iltutmish wanted to build a reservoir for the people of the city that he had built after the Delhi Sultans conquered and defeated the Chauhans. And when they decided to build a water reservoir, because there was one Bauli and water tank inside, of course, Lalkot, which was the city of the Tomar and the Chauhans, but it wasn't enough for the growing populace. So Sultan Iltutmish didn't know where to build it. And it is said that he had a dream in which the Prophet, peace be upon him, came and visited him and said that you go and search, you will find the imprint of my horse, and that is where you dig. And so he went with Qutub Sahab and he found this on the sand, he found the imprint of the Prophet's horse, and that is where this old reservoir was dug up, and the water from here started nourishing the people of Mehroli. And this pavilion I have seen that pavilion. And earlier it is said in the descriptions of Phoolwalon Ki Sair, they say that, it was impossible for anybody to swim across to that pavilion. Now you can see it's almost on the edge of the water, so you can see how much it has shrunk. And there would be boats here, so there would be bajras and boats, so the princesses would come and there would be boating, there would be swimming, and there would be generally a lot of fun. After that, they would come to the Charna. Now the water of Hawz-e Shamsi under Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who was a conservationist and an antiquarian, he repaired the reservoir and he made arrangements for the water to be used. So the water from here went all the way in a non-Lakhan Nala, all the way to Tughlaqabad, which is quite a distance from there. And from there, it fell into one of the areas nearby. In 1700, Firoz Jung built this jharna, or this pavilion that you see here. This pavilion he built here, and this wall over which the water flew down, came like a waterfall, and then fell on the top of this roof, and from there into these tanks. This is a painting from Metcalfe's Delhi album, painted by Mazhar Ali Khan in the British Museum, in the British Library. Now, the roof of this particular building was not built of stone or bricks. It was a trellis of plants and creepers, so that when the water fell down, it used to also drip inside the pavilion, and people would sit there and enjoy. And there would be from the edges, there would be diving, and these pavilions on the sides have been added to by almost every Mughal emperor from that time onwards. And it is here that they would sit. It is today also very important, because the Phoolwalon Ki Sair starts here from even today. It started from here even in those days. And Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was a poet, in fact, he wrote a verse when the first Phoolwalon Ki Sair was held. He was the crown prince, and he wrote an entire long nazam in which I'll read you the first 2 lines of it. नूर इल्ताफ व करम की है ये सब इसके झलक, कि वो जाहिर है मालिक और है बातिन में मलक. आफताबी से खजल जिसके है खुर्शीद व फलक, ये बना इस शाह अकबर की बदौलत पंखा. So this was for the first pankha that was held under Akbar Shah. And then, of course, under Bahadur Shah Zafar, this Phool Walon Ki Sair became extremely important and big. And I was talking to Professor Harbans Mukhia, who is here amongst us today. And I asked him, I said, sir, do you know anything about Mirza Jahangir's connection? He said, I haven't explored that, but this was a celebration of composite culture under Bahadur Shah Zafar. And Bahadur Shah Zafar wrote a lot of songs. And this song sometimes is confused with a song by Hazrat Amir Khusro, but it was written by Bahadur Shah Zafar, and at the end of it, the last line is Shaukh Rang Saiya. And Shaukh was the takhallus that Bahadur Shah used when writing in Brij Bhasha or Punjabi. And this beautiful geet written by Bahadur Shah, sung by my friend Reni Singh. I'm very lucky to have Reni and Rashmi who have contributed to this presentation.
झूला किने डारो रे हमरे यार, झूला किने डारो रे हमरे यार, झूला किने डारो रे। दो सखी झूले दो ही झुलाए, दो सखी झूले दो ही झुलाए, और बूंदे पड़े भुइया भुइया, और बूंदे पड़े भुइया भुइया, झूला किने डारो रे, झूला 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 किने डारो रे हमरे यार, झूला किने डारो रे हमरे यार, झूला किने डारो रे हमरे यार, झूला किने डारो रे।
Now, Amraiya was a orchard, mango orchard attached to the Jharna, and this painting that you see here is again from the British Library. It's of during the time of Shah Alam, who also wrote a lot of verses in Braj Bhasha, and he is here also in the Jharna. From the Jharna, then they would go to Bagh-e-Nazir. Now, Bagh-e-Nazir today is called Ashoka Mission. It was a bagh that was built during the reign of Muhammad Shah by his Khwaja Sarar Rose Afzoo. And you can see this is a lithograph from Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's Asar-o-Sanadid. This is a picture that I took when I had gone to visit it. All these gates were all interconnected. Today, of course, they're all very separate, and it takes you ages to go from one to another. But in those days, you could just run through. And again, the girls and the ladies would all come here. They would sit, their palkis would come, they would have fun. Chudiyan pehante the, gaane gaate the, khane khate the. And this picture of the chudis and the song that I'm going to play here, again, is a Sawan ka Geet, which we celebrated. I know my friend Prerna Jain is here. A few years ago, of course, this year we can't do anything, but till last year, we were celebrating interfaith festivals in Delhi, where we would celebrate each and every festival in somebody's house. So we had celebrated Tej in Prerna Jain's house, and this song was sung by Rashmi there. And all of Alleghenians would have बहरिया मेरी आई जिंदगी। फिर वो ननद कहती है तू तो जात हो अकेली क्यों संग न सहेली, तू तो जात हो अकेली क्यों संग न सहेली। दोनों रोक लई है दोनों रोक लई है तो हरी डगरिया बहरिया मेरी आई जिंदगी। In Aligarh, when I was studying there, we would celebrate Sawan. There would be jhulas put up. My provost at that time was Mrs. Suraya Hussain, and one of the most wonderful persons I've had the pleasure to know. She was my mother's class fellow, and she would, hold these. We would celebrate Basant, we would celebrate Sawan, and this song "Kaise Khelan Jaiyo Sawan Ma Kajariya" was a favorite with Aligarh. I don't know whether how many of you recognize this song or no. But when I was in Aligarh, this song was sung every Sawan and was our favorite kachri. Now the food, you can't forget the food. Now the kind of foods that were, these of course are dishes that have been cooked by me, but the kind of foods that were cooked under them and which were cooked for the royal khasa, as it was called, the royal dastarkhan, were the pulaus, Jilani, Irani, Noor Mehli, Zamurudi, Nargisi, Moti pulao, दो प्याजा, चाशनी दर मछली, खासे के करेले, शाह पसंद दाल, कलिया कुंदन, कोफ्ते पसंदे, दुलमा दो बुरेनी राता, मुर्ग मुसल्लम, समोसा, and parathas, bakar khanis, and of course salwa, khajle, imarti, halwa sohan, and andrasa. Andrasa, which is here, is still, this is from a shop in Shahjahanabad. And these सावन के जो खाने होते हैं ना, पकवान खास जैसे अंदर से होते हैं, ये पकौड़ियाँ होती हैं, ये सब अभी भी बनते हैं. This is a dish which is was taught to me by my mother-in-law. It's called kali amba, which is shami kebab with and if anybody is interested in any of these recipes, they're all on my blog. Now, they would also go and visit the monuments in Mehroli, and in Asarosana's Deed, Sir Syed says, it is famously said that whoever is looking up at it, that is at the Qutub Minar, has to hold on to their caps and turbans. It is so lofty that men think they can catch hold of the sky from its top and climb onto it. In the monsoon, during the procession called Phool Walon Ki Sair, on descending from the top of this minaret, 12 people found that it had been raining. God is the greatest. Even the clouds are lower than his minarets. Now, this is a print of a painting from the collection of Mirza Sikandar Changezi, who is a descendant of Genghis Khan, and he's got I think a mile-long shajara that to prove that. And his family has been living in Shahjahanabad. They came with Shah Jahan from Agra, and he has many, many precious items in his possession, which he very generously shares. Now this, as you can see, it's a very, very crowded procession, which we will now come to. Now the Phool Walon Ki Sair, this is of course from last year, but the Phool Walon Ki Sair, as I said, would start from the Jharna. They would come in procession to they would first, now to come back to the syncretic nature of it, they would, under the Mughals, on a Thursday, they would first go to Jog Maya temple, which is a temple that is associated with Lord Krishna's sister, Jog Maya, who was swished in the prison cell, and it is said that Kans threw her so hard that she came and fell in Delhi, and the place where she fell is where the mandir was established. Now, under Akbar Shah, one of his treasurers, Siddhi Mal, was asked to build a temple, and a temple was built in the 1820s in that place when the Phool Walon Ki Sair was started. And on Friday, they would go to the Dargah. Today, it has been reversed. Today, they go on Thursday to the Dargah and on Friday to the temple. Now, Mirza Faratullah Beg describes an occasion in 1846 where he says in his book, he says that when the Mela came, and when the Mela came, of course, it would be, aage, just as we have the Republic Day parade in India, there would be these takhtas, the takhts would be made into a platform. The first of all would be the Nafiri Walas, after that the dancers, the Dera Walis, after that the horses and of the Amir Umra princes, etc., etc. There would be a Shakur Kukkad Wala who had hookah, the kukkad is the name for the hookah. The hookahs, the pipe was so long that he would fling it up to the upstairs balcony, and people who were peeping from top could have smoke from the hookah. Of course, they all had their own personal mouthpieces called mohanals. And so there would be that, there would be Itr Faroshi, and there would be, in fact, there is a mention of Hussaini Brahmins also who attended the Sair. So all these people would be there. The Sair would come to, the procession would come to Zafar Mahal. They would stand under the pavilion and they would call out to the emperor. The emperor would, of course, send nazar and niyaz for them and give them inam, ikram dete the. But Mirza Farhatullah Beg says that on one occasion when the emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar was asked to accompany them to the dargah, he said, yesterday I could not go to the temple because I wasn't well. And today if I go to the dargah, my Hindu riaya are going to be very upset that I am going to the dargah and didn't go to the temple. He says, if I could not go to the temple, I will not go to the dargah. And as you can see, these are from 2015. This is from 2017, I think. There is a very syncretic pankha that is offered. You can see a picture of the green dome, and you can see Durga Ji here. You can see ayats here. You can see again Durga Ji here. This is from Uttar Pradesh, and this is now that just as you have in Republic Day, people from every state sends its own pankha. This is the Yogmaya Mandir, and this is from Mazhar Ali Khan, Delhi album. And this is the building that was built by Siddhi Mal under Akbar Shah to accommodate the worshippers who came for the Phulwalon ki Sair. And Akbar Shah, when he is decided to have it every year, said that this will be a beautiful way in which to promote communal harmony. Our Hindu brothers will go to the dargah and offer the flowers along with their Muslim brethren, and vice versa in the temple. This is the pankha, this is the mandir. And before I go further, just
Radhika Shyam Sundar ko pyari, Radhika Shyam Sundar ko pyari, Radhika Radhika Shyam Sundar ko pyari, Radhika Shyam Sundar ko pyari, Nakh Shikh Ang Anup Virajit, Nakh Shikh Ang, Nakh Shikh Ang, Nakh Shikh Ang Anup Virajit, Radhika.
The next day they would go to Qutub Sahab, and as you can see, they offered a chadar over here, and there would be Qawwali. Now this is one of the few dargahs where the Qawwali is held. It's a Chishti dargah, but not inside the courtyard. It's outside because Hazrat Qutub Sahab died in a state of Wajd, and that is why they don't play while hearing in a Sama Mehfil. So the music is never performed inside. And this, as one of the narrators in Delhi Ka Aakhri Deedar, Agai Begum, she says, this was the city and the fair of my youth. Now this Delhi Ka Aakhri Deedar was published in 1830s by the grandson of Deputy Nazir Ahmad. And he says that he is writing these books, and most of the Urdu books which are written, which I have referred to, which I have translated quite a few of, say that they are trying to record a culture which is diminishing. And he talks to Agai Begum, who was a Mughlani in the Red Fort under the Mughals, and she is saying, this was the city and the fair of my youth. Hindus and Muslims lived and celebrated together, and there was born harmony between them. Even though the empire was tottering, Mughal culture persevered. Muslims were ready to sacrifice their lives for Hindus, and the Hindus couldn't live without them. If one was the Nausha, the other was the Shahbala. Now the tide has turned, and the ones with gravitas have been buried in the debris. while the worthless ones jump up and down. The same city has now become a ghost of its former self and seems to be devouring everyone, one by one. People are scared of their own shadows. It's as if someone has cursed the city. Enmity has seeped into our bones, and the hostility between the two communities never seemed to end. Till the Mughals ruled India, this festival was celebrated with great pomp and show. It was stopped for a few years, again restarted by the British, and then again it was stopped in around 1942, I think, and started in 1962 by Jawaharlal Nehru. And in fact, the last place where Gandhiji went to before he was assassinated was Qutub Sahib ki dargah. So I hope you all enjoyed this peep into the past.
Wonderfully presented. आज जो है हम लोगों को आप लेके दिल्ली और बहादुर शाह जफर के ज़माने में चली गई, and I hope that everyone has really enjoyed the presentation. And so I think it's about time that I give this podium to my colleague Dr. Rafat Hussain for maybe a cultural questions and answers and some exchanges. But before that, I will have to have an announcement for the coming, as usually I do, for the coming Saturday presentation. So next Saturday will be Professor Ammar Ali Jan from Foreman Christian College, Lahore, a very young person, but very now very famous in the sense that he's one of those dissenters who has been hounded by government at the moment and recently rescued by Punjab High Court, Lahore. And he is a PhD from University of Cambridge in history and highly recommended to me by Professor Parvez Hudbai. So his topic will be Controlled Democracy, Imran Khan and the Rising Authoritarianism in Pakistan by Professor Ammar Ali Jan, coming Saturday at the same time, 11. So now, Rafat, please take over. And
Thank you, Razi bhai. Assalamu alaikum. आपको जो सवाल पूछना है उसके दो तरीके हैं. एक तो आप अपना डिजिटल हैंड रेस कर सकते हैं, दूसरा तरीका है तो चैट बॉक्स में अपना नाम लिख दीजिए या अपना इंटरेस्ट जाहिर कीजिए वहाँ पर. तो मैं इस वक्त देख रहा हूँ कि दो लोग का हाथ डिजिटल हैंड है. फर्स्ट वन इज फैसल बेग and second one is Sayyid Amir. So please Amir bhai get ready. Faisal Beg, please go ahead.
Faisal, unmute you.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment Dr. Safi for the beautiful presentation when we are all fatigued with this corona, pandemic all over. So, and I think I had a chance to be in the audience, I think a couple of years back in the Times Literary Festival in Delhi, when she made a beautiful presentation actually along with Dr. Hashmi and Dr. Little, which was about evolution of Delhi actually, which was such a fantastic, presentation. So I could reconnect, and I think I just wanted to compliment her and also to basically showcase this entire event in a beautiful way with, I think, songs and pictures and so many other things, which certainly I think is so refreshing. And I think I think a couple of centuries back, such a lab was set up to basically bring the communities together, to also have fun, to have enjoyment. So I think, thank you so much for your time and to put this together. And this is so lovely for all of us and so refreshing. So I just want to compliment.
Thank you, Faisal Saab. And thank you, Rana madam. Amir bhai.
बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर सविया, आपकी दास्तान और जो आपने सुनाया, मालूम होता है आजकल तो जैसे फेरी टेल है, जमाना बदल गया है. बहुत शुक्रिया. एटलीस्ट मोमेंटरीली यू टुक अस इनटू ए मोर डिजायरेबल पीरियड. तो इस आपके प्रेजेंटेशन को देख के खास तौर पर 2-3 चीजें मेरे ख्याल में आती हैं. एक तो ये कि ये आखिर जमाना जो था मुगलों का, शाह बहादुर शाह जफर, उनसे पहले उनके वालिद जो मुगल थ्रोन पे थे, वो अंग्रेजों की पेंशन याफ्ता थे, बल्कि शाह आलम के ज़माने से मराठों की पनाह में आ गए थे. उसके बाद अंग्रेजों की पेंशन, अंग्रेजों से वो पेंशन लेते थे. तो ये सारा जो आपने बयान किया है, ये और माली तौर पे हमेशा शिकायत करते थे कि पैसा काफ़ी नहीं है, जो पेंशन मिल रही है उसके इतना वो इतनी नहीं है कि वो सपोर्ट कर सके लोगों को. तो ये सारा जश्न और जो आपने बयान किया है, ये किस जमाने का था और इसका अखराजात कैसे, हाउ दे वर एबल टू अफोर्ड इट, एटलीस्ट बहादुर शाह जफर कुड डू दैट. और इसके अलावा ये बात और ख्याल में आती है कि जो रसूमात और जो शान और शौकत थी जो आपने बयान की है, वो बड़ी इम्प्रेसिव है. लेकिन ये इसमें कोई तब्दीली नहीं आई. मेरा ख्याल है अकबर और जहांगीर के बाद से जो रसूमात थी उनमें बिल्कुल बजन से ही वो ऐसे ही कायम रही आखिर तक. तो ये भी एक बात वरीइंग सोचने की है कि मुगलों की आखिर में भी उन्होंने तर्ज हुकूमत उनका ये और जो अदर थिंग्स रिलेटेड टू they are running the country, well they were not running the country, at least they were in part of Delhi. तो उसमें कोई तब्दीली नहीं आई, हालांकि अंग्रेजों का और कंपनी का तसल्लुत हो चुका था और कोई रिफॉर्म की तरफ तवज्जो, कोई तब्दीली न आई सारी एक तकरीबन 100 साल की मुद्दत में. हालांकि अगर ऑटोमन्स का आखिर जमाना था, उसमें उनकी भी तब्दीली उनमें भी आ गई थी, रिफॉर्म्स हो गई थी, कुछ जदीद हालात के मुताबिक उसके साथ उन्होंने कर ली थी. ईरान में सब्वीज और काचार, उन्होंने भी कुछ नए हालात से की तरफ मुताबिकत कर ली थी. लेकिन मालूम होता है कि मुगल्स की आखिर जमाने में शाह आलम से लेके और बहादुर शाह जफर तक कोई तब्दीली ना आई किसी तरह से. बहुत शुक्रिया आपका.
ये जो फूल वालों की सैर है, ये तो शुरू ही अकबर शाह सानी के ज़माने से हुई थी. और मैं आजकल वो पढ़ रही हूँ बहादुर शाह का रोजनामचा, जो उनके 2 अखबारों के उस पे बेस्ड है, कि जो अखबारों में खबर निकलती थी. तो उसमें तो ये है कि इन्होंने अकबर शाह के ज़माने में तो 200 रुपए वो दिया करते थे फूल वालों को इस सैर के लिए तैयारी करने के लिए. अच्छा, अमीर उमरा अपने पैसे खर्च किया करते थे, काफी कर्जा साहूकारों से ये बादशाह लिया करते थे. और बहादुर शाह का तो बहुत जिक्र है उसमें, बहादुर शाह के रोजनामचे में, कि उन्होंने इसको 5 रुपए दिए, उसको 60 रुपए दिए, लेकिन इन्हें नजर भी बहुत मिल रही थी. और जब तक के बाद में खत्म नहीं हुई, बाद में आखिरी सालों तक तो इनकी नजर खत्म हो गई थी, अंग्रेजों ने खत्म कर दी थी, लेकिन पहले तो इन्हें नजर मिला करती थी. तो उसी सब से अपने खर्चे चलाते थे. और 1,25,000 करीब इन्हें पेंशन मिला करती थी, जिसमें से काफी इन्होंने बहुत संभाल के खर्च किया. और इसीलिए अब आप देखिए कि जो इमारतें थी, जो किला है, किला मोहल्ला, वो खुद ही काफी खस्ता हाल में हो गया था, उसकी मरम्मत नहीं करा पा रहे थे. चांदी की छतें तो उतर गई थी पहले ही, उसके बाद फिर उसमें जो प्लास्टर्स था वो सब कहीं ना कहीं उसमें कहीं तो कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर रहे थे, लेकिन इन सब चीजों में तो खर्च हो रहा था. और काफी कर्जा लेते थे, क्योंकि उसमें रोजनामचे में काफी ये है कि एंट्रीज के फला आया, उसने कहा कि मेरा इतना पैसा है तो उसको ये दे दिया गया, उससे फला से नजर ली गई. तो ये सब मैनेज करा करते थे, जिस तरह से भी करते थे.
शुक्रिया मैडम. एक सवाल है संदीप साहब का. मैम, could you please share your views on Basant festival in Nizamuddin Dargah?
संदीप, इसके बारे में मैंने लिखा है. I have written an article in the Scroll. You can read that. I've described it in my book also. This Basant festival was celebrated under. It has been described very beautifully by Dargah Quli Khan in Muraqqa, Delhi, where he talks about it being held in 5 dargahs, not just Hazrat Nizamuddin. Today it's restricted there, lekin it would start from Paharganj, from the dargah of Qadam Sharif. and then come to Delhi, to the Shahjahanabad, and then it would end up in Qutub Sahib ki dargah. So it was celebrated from then, and it is still celebrated, but today it's just in one particular dargah only. It was started because of Hazrat Amir Khusro and Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia. And women are not allowed in many Chishti dargahs, except for Ajmer. And even in Mahim Dargah in Bombay, I have been inside, but there are a lot of restrictions on women in the dargahs nowadays, especially more.
Thank you, madam. Next person is Muazzam Bhai. Please unmute yourself. And then Nadeem, Professor Rizvi will have a comment. Muazzam Bhai.
सर राना सफी साहिबा, मैं आपकी राइटिंग से वाकिफ़ हूँ, उसको मैंने पढ़ा है, और आपने जितना जामे और प्रेजेंटेशन किया है उसकी तारीफ करना समझ लीजिए कि सूरज को आईना दिखाने के मुतरादिफ है। तो मेरा एक सवाल है, बसंत का जो हुआ करता था फेस्टिवल, और एक मशहूर गीत है सकलबन फूल रही सरसों, जो हज़रत अमीर खुसरो से मंसूब है, लेकिन कुछ लोगों का ख्याल है कि ये अमीर खुसरो का नहीं है, क्योंकि इसका जो आखिरी शेर है, क्या है, निज़ामुद्दीन के दरवाजे पर आवन कह गए आशिक रंग, अजहू न आवे बीत गए बरसों। तो कुछ लोगों का ख्याल है कि आशिक रंग जो है बहादुर शाह जफ़र का म्यूज़िकल तखल्लुस था। तो आप अगर इस बारे में सही बताएं कि ये क्या बहादुर शाह जफ़र का है या अमीर खुसरो का है ये गीत, तो बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
बहादुर शाह जफ़र का तखल्लुस जब वो गीत लिखते थे या ब्रज में लिखते थे या पंजाबी में लिखते थे तो शौक रंग था, और ये बात मैंने तस्दीक करी थी प्रोफेसर शमसुर रहमान फारूकी साहब से भी, जब मैं ये ट्रांसलेट कर रही थी बज़्म आखिर और दिल्ली का आखिर दीदार। और जहाँ तक अमीर खुसरो के कलाम का है, तो उनका जो नॉन पर्शियन कलाम है, जो नॉन फारसी कलाम है, जो दीवान में नहीं है, उस पर तो बहुत सवाल है, लेकिन अब लोग जो है अकीदे में उनका मान के चलते हैं।
तो आशिक रंग कौन है फिर?
अब ये तो मुझे शौक रंग तो मुझे मालूम है, उनका था शाह आलम जो थे, उनका शायद आफताब था। तखल्लुस तो इनके सबके बाद के जितने बादशाह थे जो लिख रहे थे ब्रज में, उनका तखल्लुस मालूम है, मुझे इस वक्त याद नहीं आ रहा कि अकबर शाह लिखते कहते थे कि उनका क्या तखल्लुस था, लेकिन शाह आलम का तो आफताब था।
तो अगर आप इस बारे में तहकीक करें तो बड़ी नवाजिश होगी। जी
जरूर मैं देखूंगी। 2-3 स्कॉलर्स हैं जो म्यूजिक के, खासतौर से एक कैथरीन शोफील्ड हैं, एक डेविड लन है, जिन्होंने काफी लिखा है इसके ऊपर, मैं उनसे पूछूं।
शुक्रिया बहुत।
Thank you. Professor Rizvi, please unmute yourself. Yeah, you are already unmuted. Please go ahead.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया रानापा for a very fascinating lecture, no doubt. जाहिर है कि जितनी इसकी तारीफ की जाए वो कम है। जिस तरह आपने पूरे इस फूल वालों की सैर को शुरू से और आखिर तक इसका आपने तारुफ हम लोगों से कराया, मैं सिर्फ इतना कहना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो फूल वालों की सैर हालांकि लेटर मुग़ल पीरियड में ज़ाहिर शुरू हुई और क्लासिकल मुग़ल पीरियड में इस टाइप की कोई सैर नहीं थी, लेकिन ट्रेडिशंस जो गंगा जमनी तहजीब के या जो आपस में एक दूसरे के फेस्टिवल्स बनाना, उनमें शामिल होना, वो बहुत पहले से चला आ रहा था। आप अगर अकबर के पीरियड से देखें, जहांगीर के पीरियड को देखें, यहाँ तक के शाहजहां के दौर को देखें, तो तकरीबन हर एक दौर में इस टाइप के फेस्टिविटीज, जहां एक दूसरे के फेस्टिवल्स को मिलजुल के मनाने का जो एक कस्टम था, वो मुगलों के यहाँ बहुत ज़्यादा आई थिंक के डेवलप था। और तकरीबन हर दौर में, यहाँ तक के जिनको आप औरंगजेब आलमगीर के नाम से जानती हैं और जिनके बारे में ये कहा जाता है कि बड़े सख्त थे और उन्होंने पाबंदियां लगाई, यहाँ तक कि उनके पीरियड में भी। फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपके ही दिल्ली में जो एक आध दरगाहें हैं या इस टाइप के मकामात हैं, उनको एक तरीके से पॉपुलैरिटी जो मिल रही है वो औरंगजेब के पीरियड में काफी मिली। प्लस ये भी मैं आपसे लोगों से जो सुन रहे हैं ये बयान करना चाहूँगा, राना आपा ने उस चीज़ का जिक्र किया अपने लेक्चर में, दरगाह कुली खान का जो मुरक्क़ा दिल्ली जो एक अकाउंट है, वो हम लोगों को तकरीबन हर ज़बान में दस्तयाब है, उर्दू में भी मौजूद है, अंग्रेज़ी में उसके कई तर्जुमे हुए हैं, उनको अलग अलग एडिशंस में छापा गया है, और ये तकरीबन 1740 के आसपास का लिखा हुआ अकाउंट है। और इसको अगर आप पढ़ें, एक शख्स है जो दक्कन की तरफ से चलता हुआ दिल्ली आया और तकरीबन उस वक्त जब अभी दिल्ली को ताराज नहीं किया गया था और उस वक्त वो वहाँ पहुँचा था और दिल्ली की ताराजी के बाद उसने ये अकाउंट कंप्लीट किया था। तो इसमें जो तस्करे उसके मिल रहे हैं, कहाँ कहाँ कौन से फेस्टिविटीज बनाई जा रही हैं, किस बाजार में क्या हो रहा है, वो सारे अकाउंट पढ़ने के बाद ये बिल्कुल चीज वाजे हो जाती है कि शायद आज फूल वालों की सैर हमारे लिए एक कोई यूनिक फेस्टिवल के तौर पे नजर आता है, लेकिन शायद मुगलिया अहद में इस टाइप के बहुत सी चीजें थी और दिस वाज वन ऑफ देम। और जाहिर है कि लेटर मुगल पीरियड में वो शुरू हुआ था, जिसके बारे में हम लोग ज्यादा जानते हैं, लेकिन जो मैंने आपसे अर्ज करने की कोशिश की वो सिर्फ ये थी कि शुरू के दौर से लेके कम से कम अकबर के दौर से लेके और औरंगजेब के पीरियड तक तकरीबन जो कल्चरल एस्पेक्ट है मुगल सोसाइटी का, वो इसी क़िमाश का नजर आता है, जहाँ के ऊपर हम आहंगी है और सारे फेस्टिवल्स को मिलके मनाया जाता है। शुक्रिया बहुत बहुत।
दिवाली है, दशहरा है, होली है, ये तो सब मनाया जाता था मुगलों के दरबार में, और वो उसको छोड़ते थे, नीलकंठ को छोड़ा करते थे, उसके बाद हॉक्स और फैल्कन्स। और एक चीज और है जो मैंने बहुत दफे जिसका मतलब मैंने सोचा भी है उसके बारे में, कि हम बहुत सी चीजें एक्सप्लोर करते हैं पेंटिंग्स के जरिए से। अगर आप देखिए तो होली और दिवाली के आपको काफी मुगल मिनिएचर मिलेंगे। ईद का मुझे तो अभी तक एक भी मिनिएचर नहीं मिला, कि नौरोज के हैं, लेकिन कहीं बादशाह जो है वो ईद के ऊपर अगर कोई पेंटिंग है जो उसी जमाने में बनी हो 17th या 18th सेंचुरी में, तो मेरी नजर से तो अभी तक नहीं गुजरी है, मैंने काफी ढूंढा है। लेकिन आपको दिवाली पे बहुत मिल जाएंगे, चिरागा करते हुए स्पार्कलर्स के साथ, मुगल लेडीज प्लेइंग विद स्पार्कलर्स, और अवध के कोर्ट में भी आपको मिल जाएगा कि होली खेल रहे हैं, दिवाली मना रहे हैं। लेकिन नौरोज के मुझे मिले हैं, ईद के मुझे तभी तक नहीं मिले, होंगे जरूर अगर, तो आई वुड लव टू नो। So this is just shows the syncretic culture that was prevailing there at that time. And
thank you madam. Next is Eramgol. Eramgol, you have a comment or question? Please unmute yourself. इसी बीच में जो है राना आपा, इसमें संदीप साहब का सवाल है कि कोई आप रेफरेंस उनको बता दीजिए जो वो पढ़ लें सूफिज्म के बारे में, कि दरगाह में क्यों अलाउ नहीं थी जो है वुमेन, हालांकि सूफी कल्चर में ये सब बहुत मुमकिन था।
देखिए, हज़रत निजामुद्दीन औलिया का बहुत मशहूर कौल है कि जब शेर जंगल से निकलता है तो कोई नहीं पूछता है कि नर है कि मादा। तो ये जो है इनका प्रोफेसर रजीउद्दीन अकील हैं ऑफ दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, उन्होंने बहुत काम किया है सूफीज्म पे, उनसे डिस्कशन हो रही थी। तो कहते हैं कि सिकंदर लोदी के वक्त में दिल्ली में दरगाहों में जाना बंद हुआ है, और उससे पहले औरतें जाती थी। और बाकी आप पढ़ना चाहें तो आई कैन रिकमेंड रज़ीउद्दीन अकील की किताबें बहुत अच्छी हैं, सादिया दहलवी मरहुमा की किताब बहुत अच्छी है सूफीज़्म पे. दिस इज आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू बुक्स व्हिच आर फॉर द ले पर्सन. आप बहुत डिटेल में जाना चाहते हैं तो यू कैन गो फॉर कार्ल अर्नस्ट एंड क्या कहते हैं एना मैरी शिमेल. लेकिन अगर आप थ्रू स्टोरीज जानना चाहते हैं तो भी रज़ीउद्दीन अकील हैं, इनकी किताबें बहुत, और सादिया की किताबें. दिस इज फॉर reading for people who are not so initiated as an introduction into Sufism.
जी हेराम.
जी मैडम, मेरा सवाल ये है कि दरगाहों का हिंदुस्तान के माशरे पर क्या असरात हुए, नेगेटिव या पॉजिटिव? प्लीज, थैंक यू.
पॉजिटिव ही हुए, दरगाह हुए, क्या कहते हैं, क्योंकि वहाँ के ऊपर जो था एक इंक्लूसिवनेस थी. प्रोफेसर हरबंस मुखिया ने बहुत लिखा इसके ऊपर. मैंने उनका एक आर्टिकल पढ़ा था अभी. ही इज हियर विद us, if he's still here, he was with us here in the lecture. कि he has written an article in which was an eye opener for me. कि उन्होंने लिखा है कि जो लंगर का कायदा आज हम इतना सुन रहे हैं, इतना मशहूर है लंगर, खालसा एड हर जगह लंगर कर रहा है, चाहे वो शाहीन बाग हो, चाहे ये फार्मर्स प्रोटेस्ट हो, हर जगह लंगर लग रहे हैं. और इवन सीरिया वीरिया तक जाके लोगों ने लंगर लगाया है. ये लंगर का तरीका जो था, ये बाबा फरीद के लंगर खाने से गुरु नानक देव जी ने देखा था, इम्बाइब किया था, शुरू किया था. तो एक इंक्लूसिवनेस था वहाँ पे कि सब आते थे, बैठते थे, बातें होती थी. दिस आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ द क्लासिकल पीरियड ऑफ सूफीज़्म. और आज भी मैंने बहुत दरगाहों पे काम किया है और मैं बहुत दरगाहों पे मैंने विजिट किया है. अगर आप जाइए तो वहाँ पे देयर इज सच एन सेंस ऑफ इंक्लूसिवनेस. वहाँ पे कोई नहीं पूछता है आप किस मजहब के हैं, किस जात के हैं, क्या आप अमीर हैं, गरीब हैं, क्या है, सब वहाँ पे एक्सेप्ट होते हैं और इसीलिए सब वहाँ जाते हैं और आज भी जाते हैं. और बहुत बड़ा हाथ है उनका in preserving the syncretic culture.
तो राना मैडम, अब आपने सवाल ऐसा कर दिया, मेरे जहन में एक सवाल आ गया कि जो आप बात कह रही हैं इंक्लूसिवनेस की बात तो समझ में आती है, लेकिन दरगाहों ने जो नुकसान पहुंचाया है, जो आप वहां पर ये ताबीज और गंडे और ये सब बांधने का जो सिलसिला है, और इस वक्त तो सबसे ज्यादा औरतें दरगाहों में नजर आती हैं. हो सकता है कि कुछ मज़ारों पर जो है अलाउ ना हो, लेकिन आजकल का तो पूरा सिस्टम ही औरतों पे चलता है. और फिर आपने देखा है वो कितनी ऑर्थोडॉक्सी और ये जो है एंटी इस्लामिक कल्चर जो है, उस पर आप क्या कहेंगे?
देखिए, मैंने इसीलिए कहा था कि क्लासिकल पीरियड ऑफ सूफीज़्म, जब खानकाहें थी और सूफी सेंट्स थे. आजकल तो हम सिर्फ दरगाह देख रहे हैं और इन दरगाहों पे जो हैं, जो पीरजादे हैं या जो गद्दी नशीन हैं, दे आर इनहेरिटर्स, दे आर नॉट स्कॉलर्स और सेंट्स देमसेल्व्स. और जी हाँ, जरूर वहाँ पे बहुत ये गंडे ताबीज सब हो रहा है, हर जगह हो रहा है इस तरह का एक्सप्लॉयटेशन. हमको अपने आप से समझना है और जाना है और करना है कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं. एक चीज और जो बहुत आम है दरगाहों में, हर तरह के दरगाहों में, वो ये है कि जो थोड़े से मेंटली इल पेशेंट्स को लाते हैं कि यहाँ पे हो जाएगी. दैट इज समथिंग दैट इज टेरिबल. और मैंने बहुत जगह जाके कह चुकी हूँ कि इनको आप इलाज करवाइए, इन्हें इलाज चाहिए. लेकिन अब मैं तो वहाँ बीजापुर में गई थी, मैं बीजापुर की ऑलमोस्ट हर दरगाह पे गई, अमावस पे गई थी, और वहाँ मैंने देखा था कि बहुत से लोग थे वहाँ के आसपास के गांव के, मुस्लिम गैर मुस्लिम, सब वहाँ पे आए थे कि हमारे पर असर है और अमावस के दिन असर उतर जाता है.
राइट.
चीजें तो हो ही रही हैं और ये प्रमोट हो रही हैं. बट जो मैंने पहले बात की थी, जिसका इन्होंने इरम ने पूछा था, was about the classical period.
हाँ, वो बात आपकी सही है, लेकिन इस वक्त जितना भी करप्शन हो रहा है वो सब जो है दरगाह पे नजर आता है. खैर, इसके बाद रजी भाई, कोई किसी का सवाल नजर नहीं आ रहा? अगर मैं अपनी नाहाली से किसी को भूल गया हूँ तो प्लीज रेज योर हैंड or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Last time I missed someone and I was terribly sorry. So please go ahead and ask the question yourself. Even though I don't see your name, it doesn't matter.
एक मेरा कमेंट है राना सफी साहिबा से कि हमारे यहाँ सोसाइटी में आमतौर से विरासत जो है वो वालिद से चलती है, वालिदा का ख्याल नहीं आता. तो अगर आप ये ख्याल करें, जो आजकल गलत फहमियाँ हिंदुस्तान में मुगलों के बारे में फैलाई जा रही हैं और या फैल गई हैं, तो एक बात ये कोई ख्याल नहीं करता कि बहादुर शाह जफर और अकबर शाह सानी और उससे पहले ये जो लोग थे ये जेनेटिकली कहीं ज्यादा राजपूत हैं, मुगल बहुत कम है, इसलिए अक्सर मुगल राजपूत शहजादियां इनकी वालिदा थी। तो ये ख्याल कीजिए कि जब ये अकबर जो बाबर क्या कि प्योर जेनेटिकली ये लोग मुगल थे, वो सही है, लेकिन अकबर शाह सानी और बहादुर शाह जफर आते आते प्रेडोमिनेटली ये राजपूत है। तो इट्स नॉट रियली मुगल किंगडम, इट्स जॉइंट मुगल राजपूत, प्रेडोमिनेटली राजपूत।
ये तो अपने आप को खानदान तैमूरिया कहते थे, तो अपने आप को मुगल कहते भी नहीं थे, तो हमने नाम
वो वही बात हुई ना। मैं तो मेरा थीसिस तो है कि ये खानदान तैमूरिया बहुत डाइल्यूटेड था आखिर में।
नदीम प्रोफेसर रज़ावी जो है, he is doing a session series of lectures in Asha and Ganga Jamni heritage called Reflections of a Shared Past. They have some fantastic lineup and they've had some fantastic lectures there. और इसी के ऊपर जिसकी हम आज बात कर रहे हैं, तो ये जो shared reflections on a shared past में आप देखिएगा, इनके YouTube पर हैं, नदीम can tell us the site, it's गंगा जमनी के नाम से है YouTube पर। उनके बहुत जबरदस्त वृंदावन के ऊपर एक आचार्य आए थे, गोसाई साहब आए थे, और प्रोफेसर्स कहाँ से ये लोग लेके आ रहे हैं, दे आर डिस्कसिंग इट, दे आर हैविंग अ सीरीज ऑन द सोर्सेज। हिस्टोग्राफी जो है वो इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट है, उसके ऊपर भी ये कर रहे हैं लेक्चर्स। सो ये गलत फहमियां दूर करने की हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं। फिलहाल तो एक बहुत छोटा सा चिराग लेके अंधेरे में निकले हैं, लेकिन अल्लाह ने चाहा, देखिए एक हिम्मत है हमारे अंदर कि जब कभी भी अंधेरा हटेगा तो ये चिराग भी नजर आएगा।
तो इस बात को एम्फसाइज कीजिएगा कि ये लोग बाहर से आए हुए नहीं है तैमूरियों जो कहते हैं, बल्कि ये अब इंडिजिनस या राजपूत हैं जहां तक जेनेटिकली ताल्लुक है।
तो है ही
बिल्कुल आमिर साहब सही फरमा रहे हैं।
ये तो सबको पता है कि उनके अंदर अकबर के बाद इंडियनाइज थे, लेकिन बहरहाल
आमिर साहब जो सवाल आपने उठाया है वो बहुत मौजू सवाल है, और जाहिर है कि जो राना सफ़ी साहबा ने भी कहने की कोशिश की, और मैं उनकी तायद करूंगा कि मुगलों ने कभी अव्वल ये कि अपने को मुगल नहीं पुकारा, बल्कि मुगलों से उन्होंने ज़रा सी दूरी ही बरतने की कोशिश की। यहाँ तक कि बाबर तो मुगलों को बहुत अनकूत समझा करते थे, लेकिन बकौल आपके कि चाहे उनको आप तैमूरिया कहिए चाहे मुगल कहिए, ये तो कहने की बात है, दे वर मोर राजपूत्स। तो बिल्कुल सही बात, क्योंकि अगर आप लेटर मुगल में मत जाइए, आप सिर्फ अकबर का पीरियड देख लीजिए, यानी अकबर पहला है जिसको आप वाकई बादशाह कह सकते हैं, शहनशाह वो ही है। बाबर इसलिए शहनशाह है क्योंकि वो अकबर के दादा थे, हुमायूं इसलिए शहनशाह है कि अकबर के वालिद थे, वरना उन लोगों के पास कुछ भी नहीं था। अकबर के पीरियड में जब 50 साल की हुकूमत है, वो एक अपनी तारीख लिखवाते हैं जो अकबरनामा के नाम से जानी जाती है। अगर आप उसको कभी मुतालिया करें तो आपको पता चलेगा कि उसमें जिस कदर उन्होंने हिंदी के और हिंदवी के, हिंदी से मुराद ये कि जो इंडिजिनस लैंग्वेजेस हैं उनके टर्म्स का जो इस्तेमाल किया, अपने खानों का जो तस्करा किया, यहाँ तक कि आपने शायद सुना हो एक बड़ा मशहूर वाकया था अधम खां, जिसको अकबर ने किले की दीवार से गिरा दिया था, उसकी भी पेंटिंग बनाई गई, और उस पेंटिंग में अकबर के तरह लिबास को गौर कीजिए, धोती बांधे हुए है ना, बिल्कुल एक जैसे एक हिंदू एक ब्राह्मण बांधता है उस टाइप से बांधे हुए। तो कहने का मतलब, बाय द वे जहांगीर, बहादुर शाह जफर छोड़ दीजिए, जहांगीर में भी जो बकौल आपके, उसमें 2/3 ब्लड जो है वो राजपूतों का है बनिस्बत मुगल होने के। इनके जो अपनी मादरी जबान है, जो घर पे बोलने वाली जबान है, वो शायद हिंदवी, न तुर्की है न फारसी है, और इनकी आपस में जो गुफ्तगू है, जो हमारी रोजमर्रा की घर की जबान होती है, वो वही उर्दू। तो
ये देखें आपके बाबर के जो फीचर्स थे मंगोलाइज कंप्लीटली, और फिर अकबर शाह सानी और बहादुर शाह जफर, इनके बिल्कुल हिंदुस्तानी they were completely Indian.
आमिर साहब, बात वो नहीं है, बात यह है कि तारीखदान तो चीख चीख के बता रहा है उनके बारे में। खुद मुगल अपने बारे में जो अपनी किताबें, अपने अकाउंट्स लिख के गए उसमें बता रहे हैं, लेकिन जो अफवाहों का, मिथ्स के डेवलपमेंट का जो एक यहाँ के ऊपर एक बाजार गर्म है, उसको क्योंकि शायद जितना हिटलर से जो सीखा गया है कि जितने झूठ को आप रिपीट कीजिएगा वही सच बन जाएगा। इसीलिए जो राणा आपा ने अभी जिसका जिक्र किया, जो हम लोगों ने एक सोसाइटी बनाई आशा के नाम से, अलीगढ़ सोसाइटी ऑफ, जिसमें हिस्टोरियंस, हिस्ट्री, अलीगढ़ सोसाइटी ऑफ हिस्ट्री एंड आर्कियोलॉजी करके, और एक दिल्ली की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है गंगा जमनी, उससे हमने मिलजुल के एक सीरीज को शुरू किया है जिसमें ये ना हो कि रोमिला थापड़ लिखें और हरबंस मुखिया समझें, इरफान हबीब लिखें और शीरी मूसवी समझें। हम जो कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि तारीख को, अपने इतिहास को, अपनी हिस्ट्री को आसान करके आवाम तक पहुंचाएं, और जाहिर है कि उसमें जितना हम इस पुराने, जो जैसा कि आज का लेक्चर था, टॉक थी राणा आपा की, ये हम लोगों को बताएं कि एक्चुअली जो उस दौर का कल्चर था वो क्या था। अनफॉर्चुनेट ये है कि गवर्नमेंट को तो छोड़ दीजिए, हम आप ये कोशिश नहीं करते कि अपने पास्ट को समझें या उसके सोर्सेस को पढ़ें। हमने तो अपनी जबान तक भुला दी। तो मेरे ख्याल में हम लोग बजाय गवर्नमेंट को कुछ कहने के अपने को देखें, और अगर इस टाइप की सोसाइटी से जुड़ें तो शायद अभी भी उम्मीद है कि हम तारीख को दोबारा से मिथ से निकाल के और तारीख बना दें। शुक्रिया बहुत बहुत।
थैंक यू सो मच। रजी भाई,
एक सवाल मेरा है।
जी बायर साहब।
मेरा नाम बायर मुस्तफ़ा है और मेरा सवाल नदीम के लिए और राना के लिए। ये लोग अलीगढ़ में कब थे? और मुझे हिस्ट्री से कोई कंसर्न नहीं, मैं ना हिस्ट्री का स्टूडेंट था, मेरे सिर्फ खेलने का काम था यूनिवर्सिटी में।
बायर भाई, मैं आपसे अच्छी तरह वाकिफ हूँ। बड़ी खुशी हुई कि अरसे के बाद आपकी शक्ल देख रहा हूँ। आप मेरे सीनियर थे लेडी फातिमा में, और रजमी मेरे भांजे थे।
अच्छा। जी,
तो बहरहाल मैं अलीगढ़ में ही हूँ, यहीं से तालीम हासिल की। शोबा तारीख में मैंने तालीम करने के बाद फिर यहीं पे पढ़ा भी रहा हूँ, और शायद बाद में यहीं बिंटोई में दफन भी हो जाऊं।
उसकी किसी के पास गारंटी नहीं है कहाँ जी, उसकी किसी को गारंटी नहीं है कहाँ होगा। जी वो आप राना कब थी अलीगढ़ में? आपने सुरैया आपा का नाम लिया था इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ।
70s में
बीए किया था, बीए के बाद फिर एमए।
अच्छा, क्योंकि हिस्ट्री में मेरा दोस्त था बस फरहान अहमद निजामी, दैट्स ऑल, ये मैं जानता था बस।
तो हम लोग आगे बढ़े फिर।
जी रजी भाई, ये जो है आप wrap up comment and then
after that maybe
you can discuss openly. Yeah, so those who want to leave they can.
So आमिर भाई, आपका एक जो क्वेश्चन था, मैं भी एक क्वेश्चन करना चाहता हूँ। ये कमेंट आपने जो अभी कहा कि ये क्यों राजपूत अपने को कहते और क्यों तैमूरी कहते हैं, ऐसी है जैसे हमारी कमला हैरिस जो है ब्लैक कही जाती है। तो बिल्कुल ये वे रहा है, फादर के नाम से कल्चर डेवलप हुआ है, तो उसके नाम से वो ब्लैक्स में आ गई। हालांकि मदर का इन्फ्लुएंस कमला हैरिस पे 80% है, फादर कहीं थे ही नहीं, लेकिन फिर भी वो ब्लैक कही जाती हैं। उसी तरह वो मुगल्स भी तैमूरी कहे जाते थे और राजपूत हालांकि माएँ थी। तो वो तो एक सिलसिला है, जमाने का दस्तूर है। ये जो आपने कहा ना नदीम साहब ने और राना साहबा ने कि भाई हम लोगों को हिस्ट्री ऐसे तौर पे या दिखानी चाहिए जो कल्चर प्रेजेंट जो एक माहौल है और जो कल्चर उस जमाने में था उसको किस तरह इंटेलेक्चुअल जो क्लब है उससे निकाल के बाहर ले आए, ताकि आम आदमी, और ये जैसे यहाँ पे एक मिक्स वेरी ब्लेंडेड प्रेजेंस है जितने लोग थे उसमें अच्छे खासे दूसरे कल्चरों से थे, दूसरे मजहबों से थे। इस तरह का जब तक आप एक्सरसाइजेस नहीं करेंगे तो वो इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कोर्स जो होता रहा है वो तो एजुकेट तो कर लेगा आदमी को, लेकिन एक सेलेक्टिव तरीके से करेगा। पब्लिक को बहुत अवेयरनेस नहीं होगी, और आज भी नहीं है। बहुत से बायसेस हैं, बहुत से कंफ्यूजन्स हैं, बहुत से अननेसेसरी जो सुपरफिशियल नॉलेजेस हैं वो क्रिएट कर रही हैं लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम। तो
लोगों का नाम है शक्ल ने।
तो बहरहाल ये एक एफर्ट है हर तरफ से, नदीम साहब का एफर्ट है, छोटा मोटा हम लोग का भी एफर्ट है यहाँ से। It was very nice. I think it ended very